Hi everyone, welcome to Intelligence Squared. I'm Carl Miller, and our guest today is the behavioural expert Thomas Erikson. Now, if you've ever wandered through an airport bookstore, odds are that you've probably come across his internationally best-selling book, Surrounded by Idiots. You'll recall the cover, it's iconic. It features those four multicoloured figures in red, blue, green, and yellow. And Thomas's insights into human behaviour has had an incalculable effect on countless readers' working lives. And his book, Surrounded by Idiots, is one of the Sunday Times' 100 best-selling books of the past 50 years. He is the author of several other books as well that make up his Surrounded by series, which include Surrounded by Psychopaths and Surrounded by Narcissists. And today, we'll be talking about the latest book in that series, Surrounded by Liars, How to Stop Lies and Half-Truths Ruining Your Life. Thomas, very warm welcome to Intelligence Squared.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the invitation.
So, Surrounded by Liars is the seventh book, of course, in this series. And you've written about narcissists and psychopaths and idiots. What compelled you to turn to liars as your next target?
That is, of course, the right question to begin with. Well, it's a combination. It's usually not an easy answer to why you pick a certain topic, right? I could say this is some request from my American publisher. I could say that. They talked about it for a while. They had me to make the narcissist book. And I sort of, I don't know. I don't want to do this because it has to come naturally. But then I started to look into lies and liars and why we do lie. And you have to look into yourself a little bit, which is interesting because finally the Surrounded by title is true because everybody actually lies, not about the same things and not all the time. And hopefully white lies are sort of in majority. But then again, you really don't know. But just looking into this and understanding huge lies that I thought were truths, where comes Santa Claus outfit from? The food pyramid, things like that, and realizing it's not really true what I thought was true. And I'm old enough to have sort of seen things, and I should have been more not so naive, but I'm less and less naive with increasing age, which I don't think it's a good thing, but it's a real thing. So lies are fascinating and
So when you begin then, Thomas, and you start kind of mapping the landscape of kind of truth and lies as it really sits, kind of how ubiquitous did you find the lies that all of us live by, might believe, or certainly influence us?
Well, the thing is this, you probably heard this old phrase, we judge other people by their actions, but we judge ourselves by our intentions, which I think is an interesting thing because when we lie, you lie, I lie, everybody lies. And we usually have an explanation to why I am actually sort of fiddling with the truth a little bit and struggling to really come forward with something that is perhaps problematic. What I find most interesting about the lying concept is to understand the reason behind. What is the motivation behind a lie? I mean, some people lie because the truth hurts, or they don't know the truth, so they just make things up, or maybe they lie because they are so used to lying, like narcissists and psychopaths. They lie because it's fun, They like to trick people into whatever, and it's fascinating to realize how this is such a part of human nature. I mean, if you go to look for the old philosophers, you can go back to Socrates or even further back in time. They have all been struggling with not lies, but with the truth. The truth, and honesty, and everybody has to be honest. You have to say it as it is, regardless of consequences, which is something Immanuel Kant talked about. The truth is there, and you have to go by the truth. You cannot fiddle with the truth. And some people say, well, you should lie if the truth will hurt too much and so on. So it's really, really complex. And I've interviewed a lot of people. I understand I didn't answer your question straightforward. I hear this, but it's so much to digest here. When I talk to people about lies, they all say, oh, honesty, have to be honest, Then we talk about honesty. So what is that really? And all of a sudden, honesty, that's problematic. It is, right? What do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, and I suppose like you're having to make a kind of moral mapping as well here, where you're trying to chart intentions or the motivations or the implications of different kinds of lies. And I imagine that they're kind of vastly varied, where lies can fulfill a kind of useful social function. I think when you mentioned narcissists and psychopaths there, it sounded like you were connecting lying to power as well, and how it might be used to make the liar feel more powerful.
To make the liar feel more powerful. Well, I guess that will be the consequence. I mean, when it comes to psychopaths and narcissists and similar, I mean, those are not real. Those are not people like you and I. I mean, that's personality disorders. It's
Hmm.
not mental illnesses or just bad habits. Those people are wired in a different way. They use lies as a manipulation technique, and they will lie because, well, why not? It works for them. But obviously, not everybody, not every liar is a narcissist or psychopath, and everybody understands that. As I said, we all lie. Uh, I mean, if it works for you, why would you stop lying? I mean, the most deceitful people on the planet, who might that be if we take away the personality disorders? I would say teenagers, right? You know, you can't get a true word out of a teenager that easily, and every parent knows this. So some lies you just have to understand. You have to live with it. No, I didn't. I wasn't out late. No, I didn't drink. I didn't met Sarah. I went with James. You know, and as a parent, you kind of know, no, you didn't. I can see it in your face, but you can't take every, you can't battle them every single weekend. You just can't. You have to sort of straighten out the worst stuff in there. We have friends like this as well. And we can have family members, people who just sort of the histrionic type, who sort of make up stories and they exaggerate and they tell you fantastic. You cannot imagine on my way to the grocery store. Do you know what happened? And when you hear this story building up, you feel, seriously, why are you telling me this? This cannot have happened. But you kind of go along because, some people just they never come around. And I think lies are so integrated in our society. I mean, kids, they lie from the age of, do you know? 2. The age of 2, they start
Wow.
lying. Yeah, the age of 2. And who taught them that, right?
Wow.
Who told them how to come up with lies? Well, we did, I guess. It's part of the human nature,
Well,
and I
Thomas,
don't. I think we need some of them actually. Sorry.
no, no, sorry to interrupt. Just on that specific point. So how do, and that's so interesting. How do you disentangle the kind of societal contingent aspect of lying, the kind of structures that we have, or the norms, or even technologies? Because I know that you worry about the kind of information ecosystems we live in, and social media, and how they might be connected to all of this. How do you disentangle that from the kind of like the elemental act of lying as being something which seems to be so timeless and in kind of inherent in human nature and something that we've kind of always done?
Right. I'm not sure you can disentangle these things because it all comes from human nature. It all comes from human beings. I mean, social media, as I write about in the book, I'm not an enemy of social media, but I totally understand the challenges we are facing. And I mean, reports are coming in. It's sort of, it's not good for people growing up on social media. It's not good for young people who haven't learned how to sort of face the real world. We talk about Gen Z or Gen Z for the Americans here, who are the first generation who actually they don't know a world with no internet or social media. They grew up with this like you and I. We grew up with cars. We don't react to cars. Cars are dangerous. Yeah, I guess they are, but still, it's the person driving the car who is the danger, not the car in itself. Same thing with social media. Mark Zuckerberg used to say, "Well, how can it be a bad thing? Why do you criticize me? Facebook is a great idea. You can talk to your grandmother on the other side of the planet. You can connect with your old schoolmates and so on. And that's a good thing. But human beings turn everything into a weapon at the end of the day. That is usually what happens. And the weapon here is I mean, narcissism is a good example. Great liars, manipulation people, on steroids, social media, Instagram, TikTok, and so on. It's the perfect environment for narcissism because you can tell people whatever you want. You can tell people anything. You can lie about just anything, and people will be impressed. Oh, look at him! Look at this guy, 22 years of age, still driving a Lamborghini. How cool is that? Well, is it really his Lamborghini? Who knows? Is it Photoshop? What is it? And the point I would like to make is we understand intellectually a lot of this is just crap. It's just bollocks. We tend to buy it anyway. That's
Mm.
kind of the conundrum here, I would say. Why do we fall for this? Because it makes us feel good. It makes us see possibilities, and if he can, if she can, maybe I can as well. So it's a part of the dream to see if they can succeed over there. Well, maybe I can do that too. But the problem is, of course, it doesn't work like that at all, because the only thing we are doing instead of building our own future, let's say, whatever you like to call it, however you would define success, if it's fame and fortune or money or a fantastic family or a great partnership or being an entrepreneur or just lying on your sofa playing video games, whatever you like to define it as. I guess it could be any of these things. Instead of working on that, we are observing other people getting more and more successful by lying to us. So intellectually it's really, really tricky. It's when you think about it, you're gonna it's all messed up, really. But still, we have to. I mean, going back to your notion there, how do you disentangle the whole thing? I would say if you add artificial intelligence, if you add ChatGPT on top of things, it gets all this information from the internet, right?
Mm.
Which is filled with things the humans put in there. And how do you deal with it? One guy I talked to, he said something like, and I'm extrapolating because it was a long conversation. He said something like, the only thing that will be true in the future is what you can actually see with your own eyes. If you can see it with your own eyes, IRL, then you know it's true. Otherwise, who knows? Who knows? The videos out there, our AI generated videos, are so good. It's almost scary.
And that feels like it's going to be a moment where our horizons are going to come crashing inwards. I don't know what you think, Thomas, but especially as AI generated content now, as you say, can be in no way kind of distinguishable in many cases from real footage, real voice, real
Mm,
text.
mm.
Does that mean that we're going to kind of pull up the drawbridges in the future in our digital worlds and actually make them much smaller and really only believe and talk to people that we might know in real life or that we might have a kind of established relationship with?
That's a good question. I don't know. I'm not a futurist in that sense that I try to foresee what's going to happen and where it's all going to come to. When I look at myself, but I'm 59. So for me, it's easy to separate lies, deceitful behaviors, AI generated content, and so on. It's easier for me because I have a couple of decades to compare what is happening now to. So if you know what I mean, and 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 I'm also old enough not to spend my life online too much. I like this kind of conversation. I like live conversations.
Mm.
But at the same time, we're going to edit this recording a little bit, fixing a
Yeah.
couple of
I made all
mishaps.
kinds
And
of slip ups earlier, everyone. Like you probably won't have seen them.
no, people, no, but still, is that a lie? We're going to edit things a little bit. Somebody said the only thing that will be true is live recordings, live music, live conversations, live lectures, because it's not going to be edited. And I'm not saying it's lying to edit things, but not really the whole truth now, is it? So it is tricky. I mean, every time you say, I mean, I have a couple of friends, and I'm guilty of the following as well. I mean, I'm a lecturer. I tell people stories. I use a lot of storytelling when I'm standing on stage. I've been traveling the whole autumn so far. I haven't been home much. So, and I tell people stories and I give examples and I tell them anecdotes. And sometimes I hear myself saying things that I realize that was just a little touch of some detail that actually wasn't really true, but it's a better story now. And the result is the same because people see, oh, now I understand what you mean. That's a good example of this and that. but still, it's not really true now, is it? So I'm sort of polishing my anecdotes a little bit, and people buy it. And I think most people understand. Yeah, sure, he's done this 2,000 times. Probably he has added a couple of stuff to it. Is that a lie? If I would say I am a psychologist, that would be a lie because I'm no psychologist. People like to call me a psychologist, and I have to correct them constantly. Say no, I'm not. I'm a behaviorist. Totally different thing. I know degree in psychology, but it's so easy to get drawn into this. Yeah, call me professor. That feels great. It would be great if I were a professor, but I'm not. So and it all just floats into each other, and who knows. I think to keep your what to I think it's the old story about you have to view yourself in the mirror. You have to sort of embrace the fact that you too are a human being. You can't expect yourself to be 100% honest, but you can at least sort of decrease the number of unnecessary gray areas in what might be true or not. How much do you dare to go into the truth? And I like the saying that Jordan Peterson has. He says, be honest, try to speak as much truth as you can. At least take out the worst lies. But we all have it in us. It's a capacity, and it's so easy. Oh, the money's on their way, and then I run to the computer and send it. Oh, I pay that bill, or no, I didn't hear your call. I was in a tunnel. Do we really need all of this? Or maybe the most common lie of all times is probably, I'm okay. I'm okay. How are you? I'm okay.
That's very poignant, almost upsetting, actually, but so very true, Thomas. When you describe it like that. Um, in a moment, I'd love to get to helping people understand how their relationship with lies and the truth, and especially how their personalities might intersect with that. But one more question first, just on the kind of broad picture we're painting for everyone about our own context. Now, I was in Riga last week, and there was both a big NATO summit, and then there was a huge conference called Disinfo 2024, and it was a moment where hundreds of people were gathering from all the different liberal democracies of the around the world to, I think, in the eyes of many, try and save democracy from this kind of onslaught of manipulation and lies that we've seen breaking out, sometimes online, but sometimes elsewhere. And I got the sense there anyway that people thought we were living through a kind of a time which was uniquely and dangerously dishonest, like not just like the past, but one. I don't know whether it's in the scale or in the implication of the lies, but one that seems to be shaking the kind of more fundamental ways and of in which our democracies work and our lives are led. Like, did you come away thinking that? Like, is our moment different from the times before? As each generation, I suppose, in the technical and social context makes sense of lying anew.
Are we living in the worst of times? Is that the question?
That's the question. Yeah, much
That's
more
the
succinctly
question.
put.
Sometimes, well, I'm an optimist by nature, but I'm also a realist, and those things are sometimes complicated to combine. I have to say, but I would say, are we living in the worst of times? I mean, as I started this conversation, the proclivity for deception is within every human being, and I don't think human beings are born naturally good, if you know what I mean. I think we have to domesticize ourselves a little bit because we are animals, of course, and we can be quite like savages, and we've seen that throughout history. And now that hasn't changed really. What I think is a difference these days is that we have more, let's say, more sophisticated tools to spread whatever we want to spread. If it's honest podcasts where we sit and have philosophical discussions, or if it's completely mentally deranged stupidity, or if it's lies. If we want to have, I mean, when I was a kid, what happened, in my neighbor's house, I had no clue. Today, you can sneeze in London and they pick it up in Argentina 2 seconds later. So sort of all the gadgets, and of course social media is a part of that. That's the downside of social media, because you can spread whatever super fast. And we have a proclivity to look for dangers, of course, but also to look for things that makes us feel good. If it feels good, I'm gonna follow this. And people who say beautiful things like we should all be together, we should all, be equal, we should all have it, we should share everything equally, and we should be brothers and sisters. It's a lovely thought, it's a beautiful thing, and I would endorse that notion anytime. The problem is people are so different that it's not true. Every ism on the planet is based on some lying, some lies, because it's never going to be true. People will always be different, and if we can deal with that, we can build a fantastic society for everybody. But we have to accept it. I think in certain cultures, people are more used to being manipulated. I mean, living under a dictatorship. I mean, the old Soviet Union, or behind the Iron Curtain. I met somebody who grew up in Eastern Germany, after the war, and he said, maybe you read this, Carl. He said 1 out of 3 citizens in Eastern Germany was connected to the government, were sort of some sort of spying on their relatives, which means in a family of 5 people, one or maybe two people were reporting everything being said around the dinner table. How do you live with that? The only thing you can deal with is you can only say things that are completely, safe. You can never say anything even remotely sensitive to anyone anywhere, or maybe criticize the wrong part of the society, let's say the government or anything. And sometimes I have to say, it feels like we're going in that direction, to be honest, because people are not daring to speak the truth anymore on certain sensitive topics. We don't have to mention the topics because I think we know what I'm talking about. I think that is a huge risk. I think we need to be polite. I think we need to be open minded. We should listen to each other. It has to be okay to have different opinions. But when you're trying to stop people from having their opinion, that makes them liars, because now they have to play along and pretend they believe in A, B, or C. It doesn't really matter what it is. I think that's the biggest danger to our Western culture right now. People wanting to shut people up because I don't like what you're talking about. It creates more and more lies, and that's a bad thing.